Andrew Forlines with chefaf.com. I'm your guide to the modern home kitchen appliance industry. This is the Chef AF Modern Kitchen podcast, where we cover all the technology in residential home kitchens. We talk about navigating the purchase and selection process, and I help educate people to make selections with confidence to select exactly what they need for their home kitchen, matching their cooking style, lifestyle, and aesthetic. So glad you could be here and listening. Today, we will be covering induction burners. This is part of the series that we're doing. Season 1 of this podcast is all about your journey as a customer in the home appliance selection process for your home kitchen. And now we're starting to dive a little bit deeper into technology. The past episodes are a bit of a broader view and also helping you enter the industry in a way that you can, with open eyes, so we can see as much as possible. Today I am filming in the IDC building here in Denver, Colorado. That's the International Design Collection building. I am in the Inspire Kitchen Showcase showroom here. We are good friends with Angela, who runs Inspire Kitchen Design. She does a great job with premium homes and getting those kitchens set up beautifully. So today we're talking about induction burners. What is induction? So induction burners, induction cooking, it is electric powered, but it's nothing like the old electric tops that we're familiar with. Those glowing red tops, those coil tops, in my mind are obsolete now that we have induction. And induction to the performance level that we have now. Induction cooking has been around for almost a century. It's really in the last decade or two honed in its capacity at home. We're starting to see, the way it works is the more the market adapts or accepts or takes on a technology, the more the manufacturers are going to invest in making it better and better. So we're seeing this feedback cycle here where, Gen 3 and 4 of induction in the home use here in America. So seeing a lot of improvements there, really exploding in a good way, expanding its market share nationally here in America. Europe has always had a higher degree of induction use because of the efficiency, which we'll talk about later. Electricity's always been more expensive in Europe. So they're definitely, have used it more for longer, but we're really catching up. We're seeing a big expansion in the market for a variety of reasons that we can talk about performance-wise. So induction, the way it works, induction burners have a copper coil underneath the burner that creates an electromagnetic field to generate heat directly in the metal of the pan itself. So we don't have that delayed chain reaction that we would on gas or electric. We're having that immediate friction heat development in the cookware, okay? So we're not having a lot of spillover heat. We're not having extra heat going out the side. It's right in the cookware. So when we talk about efficiency, induction is 90% efficient, transferring that heat, that energy, into usable cookable heat. Electric tops are about 75% efficient. That glowing red hot burner, you move your cookware off to stop the cooking process, and we have more spillover heat going out into the home. So they're about 75% efficient. Gas is about 40% efficient, all right? So 60% of the gas that you buy to feed your burner gets burned and goes right around the pan before the metal can absorb that heat, right? And you're gonna need a lot more ventilation for gas burners because you've got to get rid of that carbon monoxide out of the home. So we've got big hoods over gas ranges and gas burners for that reason. Induction is much more forgiving on your ventilation needs. You're gonna need a lot less to in your kitchen build out ventilation over induction. So induction is much more efficient. A lot of people are worried that their cookware won't work with induction, and I say any metal that's magnetic, any ferrous metal that a magnet can stick to is going to work. So just take a magnet, and if it sticks to any of your pots and pans at home, they're going to work on induction. That being said, the metals that don't work are aluminum and copper. Aluminum is the entry-level pans and cookware are usually made out of aluminum because it's cheap. Personally, I don't cook on aluminum because it doesn't retain heat well. It's very spotty. It also is a reactive metal. So any acidic food cooked in aluminum can impart a metallic flavor into your food. So I prefer not to cook on aluminum for those reasons. But most cookware companies now have, a lot of their cookware as induction ready. Because the market share of induction is growing, these brands are making sure that they can accommodate that demand, and then are making their cookware induction compatible or induction ready, which has its own little emblem. It's a squiggly tail, looks like a pig's tail, but it's 3 loops, and it means induction coil is able to be used on those cookware. Cast iron works really well, so I use cast iron on mine. To protect the glass top of an induction top, I'm going to use a towel or a silicone mat between the glass and the cookware. And believe it or not, the heat is going to go right around that barrier, right? Because it's an electromagnetic field. That's not going to hamper it at all. It's not a chain reaction where we need to heat through that. So we're able to protect that glass. Because the glass doesn't get going red hot, it's going to stay cleaner, much longer, much easier to clean, and also you're not going to have to scratch or scour it like you would with an electric top where food gets cooked into that heat because of the glass. So hot soapy water, non-abrasive sponge, or a towel are plenty enough to keep the induction top clean. We're going to see more power output. So a lot of people come into these showrooms and they say, hey, Chef Andrew, you must love gas, right? You love gas cooking. That's what everyone wants. They want that big, powerful gas burner. It's got to be the best. And I say, hey, if there's a big difference, I love commercial gas ranges and burners, right? Residential gas is a much lower heat output. By code, they're manufactured to different specifications. Residential gas burners, residential ranges have limits on how much heat they can put out, how much BTU and carbon monoxide they can create, which really limits your cooking capacity, right? So when we talk about it, let's talk about BTUs. Your burners in the home space are 18 to 20,000 BTU as your high end. I've seen a couple of creep up to 22, 25,000 BTU. But again, we can't go over that because we can't put heat out in a home. There could be a bedroom over the kitchen. There are people living there. Whereas restaurant commercial grade, we don't have that constraint. The kitchens are concrete and stainless steel. We have a huge fire suppression and ventilation system built in overhead, which is the most expensive part of a kitchen build out, enabling us to use those high BTUs. So in the home space, let's say 20,000 BTU is our high end. Restaurant burners, commercial grade gas burners start at 30 to 40,000 BTUs per burner. We're going up well over 100,000 BTUs for that wok cooking to get that real high heat flame cooking. So you see there's a big difference between residential and gas. Now, induction on its BTU equivalency is 35,000 BTUs per burner. So about 150% of what gas can do in the home. So much so that some people need to learn to not go high on your induction to start with, right? When we set it low, medium, high, 1 through 10, that's going to be higher than your gas. That's going to be higher than your electric heat can put out. So you're putting out more heat. I don't usually use high on my induction burners unless I'm doing a big pot of water, which is thermally dense and can use all that energy. I'm going to go about half to 3/4. 3/4 is going to be my high, and I'm going to gauge from there. So we're able to get more heat, more searing, more browning on our food with induction than we can with gas. The other nice thing is that, say I overcrowd my pan and I'm starting to sweat my onions or whatever I'm trying to brown, and now they're all wet and they're not browning, they're just steaming on themselves. I can crank that induction heat up. I can evaporate that moisture out quickly, and now I'm getting back into that browning and I can turn the heat back down. So now my solid to moisture ratio is better where I want it to be. And that's a lot of what cooking is moderating and controlling your solid to water ratios when we're searing and baking and whatnot. So keeping that in mind. So induction, higher BTUs. Induction, easier to clean. Induction, more efficient than all these others, right? Ventilations, we talked a little bit. So when we're building out a kitchen and we need to accommodate ventilation, we really want external ventilation, so air that gets pushed outside. When we do that, certain code is different. Building zone codes are different depending where you live. City and codes and county codes can be different, but generally around 400 CFN, that's 400 cubic feet a minute of air we're leaving the house, right? Imagine 400 soccer balls of air just leaving the house. About 400 CFM, once we install that into the home, by code, we have to bring air in somewhere else in the house, right? And you can't just open a window. It has to be a passive system, right? So it doesn't need human intervention, which means a whole nother HVAC project, a hole put in your home somewhere. That air coming from the outside's got to be heated and treated and filtered, right? So this range, this gas range, because the CFM ventilation needs are dependent on the BTU output of gas specifically, because we're combusting flame in the home. We're creating carbon monoxide. It's a health risk. Because it's dependent on the BTUs of the gas burner, now you're needing to make up air. Now you're needing that big ventilation hood. When you go with induction, by code, as far as I know, we don't have a requirement. You're still going to want ventilation to get rid of smell and particulates when we're cooking, but we can actually have a much lower sized fan, much lower CFM, and get good results. The downdraft too is going to work better. So that's a ventilation that sucks down instead of being over your cooktop. It's in the countertop. Some of them are pop up and can suck the air, but they're all sucking the air down, recirculating or external exhaust. One quick note on ventilation use, I always recommend turning it on low before you start cooking. A lot of times people don't like the noise of the hood, so they don't turn it on until they've created smoke or smell. Then you're turning it on, but they can only capture what's being created. They can't capture what's already lost into the home, right? So we want to train the airflow like we would when you light a match for a fireplace, getting the flue, getting the air trained to which path it's going to go. So if we have that vent on low to start, we're going to able to train the air path. And then turning it up to medium is going to be more impactful than if we don't turn it on at all and have it on high after we need it, right? So quick tip on ventilation there on how to use it. Induction also is because it's electric powered. Long term, we're able to go to green energy sources for that. You could use solar to power your home or whatever you might use, but because gas is burning fossil fuel right in the home, it has its impact on sustainability, but also your air quality control. So induction is gonna have that over gas. Induction also has some safety features. You cannot turn it on without cookware or magnetic material for it to interact with. The burner is only half the equation. So if someone touches it, if a cat walks across it, or the kids try to bump it, it's not gonna turn on if there isn't a cookware, pot or pan on there to interact with, which means that I can have confidence that it's not accidentally turned on. It also means that I can use that if I'm in a small kitchen and I want to maximize my counter space, I can use that glass top as counter space. I can put my groceries on it and know that I'm not going to bump it and turn it on and burn anything. I can put a cutting board on one of the burners I'm not using and be cutting and cooking on a different burner. So we're able to get more space out of that way. You can't accidentally turn the burner on without cookware present. Or any magnetic material, right? So just to be cautious if your hammer and tools get set on there. Don't want to do that. There's also the safety feature of auto shut off. So say an emergency pulls us away while we're cooking, all the moisture dries out of our pan and the heat skyrockets on that pan. Underneath, there's a heat sensor under the burner. Most brands, most that I've encountered, this is something you'll want to confirm. If it senses the heat above what we would consider cooking temperature, it's going to automatically shut off. And I've had that happen. And it'll say, hey, you're just burning stuff, right? I've had a pot of water boil out when I was pulled away from tending to something else. So it'll automatically shut off, which is great for aging in place folks, for great with kids. It's also, let's circle back to the heat output. It's not glowing red hot. The only heat the glass top gets is from the cookware back down. So it's going to be hot to the touch after we're using it, but it's not glowing red hot. It's not sending anyone to the hospital hot, which is really nice that it's much safer that way too. So safer environment, safer cooking, higher power, better for the environment, better ventilation. All these things mean I personally have induction in my home. I recommend it for everybody. Especially here in Colorado, the higher elevation, it impacts our gas burning. The higher we get, the less oxygen there is in the air. So we have gas actually burning at a lower efficiency rate. What I recommend is induction indoors and then do gas cooking outdoors if you can. So you can do a built-in kitchen outside with, say, a high-powered grill, infrared gas grill. Or now we're seeing high-powered burners that can be put outdoors. So we're seeing some brands like Alfresco and Lynx doing 65,000 BTU burners outdoors. So you can get that wok cooking. So you can do paellas and crab boils and brew beer and all that fun stuff. That party food can be outside. There's also portable versions, portable propane-fed gas burners for outdoors as well. So we can do gas outdoors and induction indoors, get the best of both. When we do gas outdoors, we don't have that BTU restriction. And we also, unless you're built in under your eaves at home, you don't need ventilation, right? So definitely a way to use that open flame burner style cooking when we want it. So this, I think, is enough for us to digest right now about induction, how well it works. Across brands, I would say it's all very equivalent because the master components under inductions, the induction burner units, are produced by the same large manufacturer and then sourced out by brand. When it comes to picking your cooktop or your range, I say focus on interface. So how do I interact with it? Is it buttons? Is it touchscreen? Is it knobs? Do I have a dedicated adjustment for each burner, or do I have to toggle between burners and have one adjustment point? Then also your burner layout. The old style would be circular burners that mimic gas burners. Now we're starting to see rectangular module burners, which means I can activate all of them all the way back and get a griddle on there and not have a cold spot in the middle. We're also seeing some brands have freedom tops. So anywhere it detects that pot or pan, it's going to adapt and enlarge and activate the burners underneath accordingly. So we can actually adapt and actually move the pot or pan, and the burners will activate underneath. So that's a freedom style where it activates the burners underneath. So a lot of fun features and functions available in induction. It really does come down to its interface, its styling, and its aesthetic for what will work for you. The different brands have different layouts. You also want to be aware of the glass and how it's set onto the counter. Some are going to be set right on the counter, so there's a glass lip above the counter. The most vulnerable part is the corner of your induction burners, to where they might get chipped if something slides into the corner. So I do think it's important to either flush mount your true glass tops or get one that's got a stainless steel band around it or in the front and the back to protect those corners. That can also help styling mesh. So say I get the stainless steel accent on my induction top is going to match my stainless steel appliances if that's the way you go. Lots to learn on induction. You're welcome to reach out. I'm very reachable at chefaf.com, my website where I have more resources, webinars, and can be booked for consultations, a private virtual online consultation for me to talk with you about your specific kitchen build-out project and give you insights on technology for the home kitchen and how you can utilize it. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. We'll continue this journey as we go along, learning about appliances in the home kitchen, how to use them, how to select them, which ones are right for you. So thanks a lot for listening, and I will see you next time.